Ready?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thomas Brown, take one. Okay.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Thomas Brown, firefighter EMT here at the City of Fountain Fire Department. Today we're going to be basic instruction on forcible entry. And hopefully we're going to be in the classroom and then out in the Station 2 at the forcible entry door. And hopefully the classroom portion takes about 30 minutes. We'll be out there forcing doors for a little bit longer. So today's learning objectives on the fire ground is, in full PPE, we're going to be able to force an inward swinging door, proper tools and techniques being used, do a quick search inside the door, and come out and control that flow path of the air going into the door. And then we're going to talk about, later on in the class, out in the training ground, about being able to force a commercial door with pictures and visual aids. Commercial doors are hard to come by, so we don't have those today. We're just going to talk about it and possibly the use of a K-12 when forcing a door. Learning objectives in the classroom, we're going to be identifying the difference between a residential inward swinging door and commercial doors, which is a big difference between them and where they're located at. Forcible entry terminology, just going over the terminology that you hear while performing forcible entry. Identify different setup of tools with irons and ladder irons and being married together, the K-12s. And then towards the end, we're gonna get some pictures to verbally size up some doors and how you would force them. So safety for today's training on the training ground. It's gonna be hot. We'll be outside, forcing doors. Everyone's each other's eyes. Be cognizant of what's going on. Speak up if you see something. No one's a safety officer. Everyone's each other's safety officer. We're gonna have eye protection because there's gonna be wood flying, tools flying. And main, just stay hydrated, watch out for each other. If someone doesn't look right, say something to help them out today so we're able to go home without any injuries. So today some of the materials you're going to be seeing either in the classroom or on the training ground. We have a set of irons, which include the Halligan and flathead axe. On the training door prop, full PPE, which everyone has available to their use. Skills checklist, so pretty much what we're going to be going over in order, kind of like a JPR. Door props, copy of quiz, because we have quiz after the test, after the classroom portion, and then evaluation form some things. So I've heard a lot of people say forcible entry is a lost art because of technology and hydraulic tools. So not many of the bigger departments have gone away from some of the forcible entry tools and they've gone to hydraulic tools. It makes their life a little easier. And if they have to force a bunch of doors in a hotel, it's easier to use a hydraulic just because of time concerns and the firefighter doesn't get fatigued as quickly. And then all the firefighters that have mastered the art of forcible entry are no longer in the fire service. And the new generation coming into the fire service either didn't want to learn it or didn't learn it all when they were available to them. So the Halligan, the tool is about 30 to 36 inches long, depending on the type of tool you get and where you get it from. So some of the main components you here is the adze in. The adze in and the pick are located on the same side. The adze is a flat wedge looking thing. It's about 2 inches wide, and the pick looks like a little pick on the end of the Halligan. The forks are located on the other side of the tool. They're mostly going to be what you use for forcing and prying a door. You have the crotch of the Halligan, which is located between the shoulder, and it's right in there where you can wedge a door prop or door handle into it. Your shoulder is located on top of your forks. It's a striking zone that you can use to help single man forcing. And then your shaft is the main body of your Halligan. So that's the main area where you can be holding and striking with the flathead. So you're going to hear a lot of terminology today. So having the tools married together is the Halligan and the flathead axe. Where they sit perfectly together, and that's called being married. Usually forcing a door is a two-person skill. It's going to be more efficient with two people in order to force everything open. And then some commands you're going to hear is strike. Strike is when you're going to be able to just, the person on the flathead axe is going to strike the back of the Halligan. It's just going to hit it once. Drive is that person with the flathead axe is going to drive the Halligan until the person holding the Halligan says stop. Of course, you're going to hear stop, which is going to stop the driving or hitting motion. And then wedge is the Halligan man telling the axe man to wedge the doors just so he can keep his purchase points and keep that purchase point open so they can adjust their tools without the door closing back in on itself. Okay, size up. Size up is, most people say this is the most important part of forcible entry because if you're not able to size up the door, you don't know what tool to take and how you're going to approach the door. Yes, it may be wooden, but you may have some security measures inside of there. Know where the door you're facing is located at and what part of the building you're going to go in. Is the door you're forcing, is it a residential door or is it a commercial door? And why do you have to force the door today? Is there any visible security measures? You could have keypads or some of the higher end commercial buildings, fingerprint scanners, or obvious signs of locks on the door to secure the door to make it a little harder for someone to get into. So steps when forcing. So the first step is you're gonna size up your door and ask yourself what kind of door is it? Is it an outside door, have a little more protection to it, or is it an inside door, a little more hollow and easier to get through? Is there any hinges on the outside of the door? It's gonna indicate if it's an outward or inward swinging door, and it's gonna be crucial on the way you force and actually use your tool when forcing the door. You always want to try before you pry. You always want to go see if the door is unlocked first. Because if it's unlocked, it's going to save you a whole lot of time to get inside, and you're not damaging the resident door and causing more damage than you have to. Sound your door. This is a good technique. Start from the top, middle, bottom. You just want to feel the integrity of the door. If you feel any resistance when you slam your Halligan into the door, usually indicates there's something there holding it other than a lock, so an extra security measure. Use the best technique to force your door. Is it either, are we going to go straight for the bolt, are we going straight for the handle, straight for the locking mechanism, or are we going to wedge and work our way up the door, bevel in, bevel out? When forcing the door for a fire incident, when you force the door, you always, after you force your door, if you don't have a line right there, you want to do a quick inside search because victims are always found in the means of egress. So doors and windows, since you're forcing a door, do a quick look and see if there's a victim. And as soon as you do that, you want to close the door with your tool and control the door so you control the airflow through the house so you don't make the fire any larger than it has to be. So inward swinging door is most common in residential structures. You're always going to see, very rarely will you see an outward swinging door in a residential, besides a screen door, which are glass or any type of thing of that nature. Outside inward swinging doors could have multiple locks to them. They got deadbolts, and it's going to make the process of forcing a little longer. So here's a couple of different examples of an inward swinging door. You have your basic house door, glass on each side, and then you have another door that has a little bit more security, has metal inside of it, has an extra deadbolt on the top of it, and so that door is going to make forcing it a lot harder than it has to be. And those are just things you need to consider when forcing an inward swinging door and the complications it can come with. So commercial doors, the hinges could be on the inside, could be on the outside. From the hinges on the, if the hinges are on the outside, they can be compromised with a hand tool of the sledgehammer until hitting it hard enough is going to be like ice, and hitting it with a metal object like sledgehammer is going to destroy the integrity, and that hinge is going to be able to fail and compromise easy. And when looking at the commercial door, it's being able to look at the door itself. You can see bolts coming through the door, and usually those bolts indicate there's something right there, or it's holding something. So the bolts form a pattern. It's usually an indicator of a drop bar sitting right there. So it's going to make your forcing of that commercial door a little harder. Then you're going to have to look at things like this picture right here. It has a metal protector next to the handle, so it's going to be harder to get around and force and get that lock because of that metal sleeve right there. Just because there's bolts doesn't mean there's going to be a dead drop bar in there. So yes, there may be bolts, but you may just going to continue like you regularly force the door. And if you feel resistance, you can go from there with the drop bar. You can also, depending on the door, you can try to find the panic bar. If you can't get to the sides of it, you can go through the door and try to pry up and hit that panic bar to open it from the inside. This is going to take a lot longer because you're going to have to go through the whole integrity of the door and be able to hit the inside of that panic bar. So different examples on the panic commercial doors. So this one, you see a lot of places with the glass with the mesh going through it, because, and this is going to be hard to force through. You could try to go through the glass. It's just going to be a real pain in the butt. Then another commercial door has no outside handle, but all the hinges are on the outside. You could take those hinges with a sledgehammer to destroy the integrity of that door and to be able to pry that door open from the hinge side. So today we talked about just the Halligan tool and all the parts of the Halligan tool and how they work and they interact with each other. Be able to identify the right tool to go for the job and with forcing a door. We're all able to discuss how to force a commercial door and the aspects along with it. Demonstrate, and we're able, soon after we go to the training ground, be able to demonstrate the ability to force an inward swinging door and how to effectively force that. And then I'll go outside, time to practice. We go to Fountain Station 2, we have all the training props there. We'll be able to work on forcing an inward swinging door with full PPE and eye protection on. That is everything for today. Thank you guys all for coming to my class.